and welcome back to our Forge modding tutorial series. And today we're gonna take a look at item groups, or better known as creative tabs. So for better visibility, let's start by making a new package. We quickly call that init. In that we're gonna put every class that is dedicated to initialize some systems that we need. We make a new class now, which actually just initializes our item groups. We call it like tutorial item groups or something. Tutorial item groups. So let's take that. Now, in that tutorial item groups, we make a new constant or static variable. It's also called a class variable. So for that, to start with that, we need to make a new class, which we put in another package. So we quickly make another package which we call item groups, or item group. I'll stick with that now. That's basically it. It doesn't make sense to like do these packages for just two classes to separate them, but if you have more than those two item groups, you pretty much need those packages, otherwise it won't be visible. So this makes things more clean, so we do that to separate classes from each other. And now we are doing the actual item group, which we in that case call tutorial item group, not to tutorial item group. So this item group, well, it's not an item group now, so we need to extend from item group. So that's not Minecraft item group. So if you know a bit basics of Java, you know that extends takes like a superclass and makes this class an inheritant class of the superclass, which is pretty neat, and it's the basic of object-oriented programming. So what we're gonna have now here is that we have an arrow, which is okay. So we see that gives us two quick fixes, but I'll take the second one here and I'll explain what I did there. So you can write those manually, by just making a new constructor of the class and then calling the super instruction, but we need to put in there a label, so that's actually the name of the item group. So you need to give it a name, otherwise it won't function in any way. So I just call it tutorial. That's also used, so that's not the localized name, that's the unlocalized name. So we go to localization a bit later on. That will happen in a language file, so that's just a key to the language file, but I'll get to that later. Now we get another arrow, which is also good. At unimplemented methods, that's mostly the quick fix for it. We can write those things manually. If you know how Java works, which I recommend you to know, or at least you should try to understand the language itself, because now we have this override. So we take the create icon method from the item group class, which is actually in here with other things too. You see all those initializations like override this class. And if we go down here, we see what actually we can override, and there is the get icon, which we actually have to override in that case. Normally this is because, yeah, that's the one we need to implement. It's an abstract method, so we need to implement that in our class. So you need to have this method, and you need to have the super call, because the item group like forces you to have these two methods and calls. What is this icon? It is basically we return an item stack. And if you know from Minecraft itself, it has like these item stacks with like blocks in it or items in it. So you can basically return a new item stack, which has a whatever item or block in it. So we're gonna quickly take our block here. Blocks dot, like, what are we taking? Chiseled quartz block, for example. Or you can I don't know, use something else for that. So that's basically the icon you have um, for your creative tab or your item group, whatsoever how you want to call it. It's the thing that shows on the tab itself. So that's it. And now we need to initialize this class. So we call the constructor by, I show you that, by invoking, by making first of all a new variable that we call tutorial item group, and that's static. Don't forget that. I call that tutorial group. That's not naming convention group. So basically, we now use the new keyword, and we now initialize this class. So that makes just a new instance of the class and puts it in this variable here. So this automatically calls the constructor here and sets the name of the item group. That's pretty much it. But as I said before, that's not localized, so we need to make a language file which contains the localization of those things. So that means we need to make a new resource. For that we need a package, and that's important because those packages are, yeah, they have to be named like that, otherwise it won't work. So you need assets dot, and now there is, you need to put your mod ID in there. So assets point and then your mod ID, that's probably that one. Your mod ID, new package, assets dot, and then your mod ID, and then you need to put in a lang. That's for the language files location. And in the lang package, you can now, no, not a class, you can now create a new file, which is a .lang file. So we quickly name that. So it is named by the country codes and by the language codes. So actually it's language code underscore and then country code. So for American or US English, it would be EN for English and then US for USA. So for United States. So that's pretty much it. We now just create an English language file for the US, but you can also do like GB for Great Britain or something else. But that's the most common one. So en_us.lang, and there now can put in the names. Gosh. Now we need to create fuck. Now we need to create a language file in our assets folder, and for that we make a new file which is a JSON, not like in the older ones. In the older mod versions or micro versions, there was the .lang files used to make localization, but now you need to have JSONs which are named the following way. You have the language code, which is like en in my case, and underscore, and then you have the country code, which is, for example, US or Great Britain, GB or something, but we'll stick to US by now. And it needs to be a JSON file, which is the new thing, because before it was just some random thingies, but not like in a scheme, in a specific. So now we need to do a JSON class or JSON file which contains JSON scheme. So just quickly do that. Now it opens Notepad for me. You don't need to do that. You can, oh fuck off. You can just pull it in here and you can edit the file without opening in another editor. Now we need to make these brackets. That's just JSON scheme. So now we can add just everything in it. So in that case, we need to make the item group, which is item group dot, how do we call that? We call that tutorial. Just copy that. Now that's the unlocalized name of it, and now we just give it a new name. I call it just tutorial. Yeah, I know. For fuck. Can't even write tab or tutorial. That's bad. So basically that's it. You need to separate those by a double dot or however you call that, and you need to have those, oh, I don't know how they're called in English. You know what I mean? Those string separators or whatever to like separate the names. It's like in Java to do a string. So that's basically it for the JSON. There is a little thing I want to add according to the Forge documentations. The localization they are no longer plain text files, so that's not correct in the documentations. But you maybe need to write the language code in lowercase. That means if you have defined a pack format or free, I don't know if it's also if it's higher than free or not, but it's for free, and I would say higher than free. In your pack MC meter, we just give it a look. This is the pack format you have specified here. That's currently 4. So I'm not sure, but I would say you can try both. This was the formal convention to have en_us and then in uppercase US. So the the language code in uppercase and the the language code in lowercase and the country code in uppercase. But it seems to be all lowercase now. So if it doesn't work, the language files just try to make them lowercase. Another things that I want to add was like what you can make this thing here final, which says just that you can't edit this this variable anymore after you have initialized it. But yeah, you can do that. You don't have to. I would recommend you to do so. Another thing that improves performance on the server side is to write at only in this dot client. That what this does make it. First of all, it's an annotation, so it says something about the following method, statement, or parameter, and it in that case it says that it is only exported. So this method only exists on the client side of Minecraft. So you don't have it on the server side, which is actually great because you don't need to load this method on the server side because you don't need it. Because it's an icon and you only needed to render this icon. It's not that there's anything server-sided about it. Yeah, that maybe improves performance on servers. Just want to add that. So thanks for watching, and tune in the next time when we go to items. Have a nice day. Cheers.